making the case for a united Canada and for a pipeline from Alberta to BC. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
The answers you need
from the people in the know.
This is Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
It was a day of national pride and a day to make calls for national unity. Although the weather in the nation's capital was anything but cooperative, with scorching heat and later heavy rain and wind that canceled most of the Canada Day events in Ottawa, Prime Minister Mark Carney addressed the crowd who braved the heat, and he tried to rally Canadians around the flag.
And my friends, this work is born from the conviction that Canada is worth fighting for. That Canada belongs to all Canadians, that Canada's best days are yet to come. These convictions were forged across generations, and they're being renewed by this generation. Courage, connections, conviction, Canada. Our Canada. Canada true, Canada strong, Canada free.
After spending the day in Ottawa, the Prime Minister was supposed to fly to Edmonton and make an appearance at a local Canada Day celebration in that city, but his plane was grounded in Ottawa after the National Capital Region was pummeled by thunderstorms that flooded roads and highways and knocked power out to tens of thousands of homes. He was supposed to go to Alberta because today is a big day in Alberta politics, as the provincial government, led by Premier Danielle Smith, is set to announce its proposal for an oil pipeline to the West Coast. Up until now, there's been only speculation about a possible route, with Premier Smith sounding as though she prefers a northern route to Prince Rupert, while the federal government seems more open to a southern route that would end at the Port of Vancouver. In a 17-minute video titled Canada's Energy Future and posted on his YouTube channel, Prime Minister Carney talked about his time growing up in Alberta, and he acknowledged the resentment that many Albertans feel about how Ottawa has treated the province.
It hasn't always been good news. I was a teenager in Edmonton when the National Energy Program was introduced, and I remember how Ottawa made Albertans feel like our resources weren't our own. And then more recently, we're made to feel that our energy contributions were running against the tides of history. What should have brought us together began to divide us, contributing to a half-century of politics that have too often pulled us apart. I've acted as Prime Minister to the best of my abilities to help put those divisions in the past by focusing on what we can build together for the future. From my perspective, there is no more important goal than a strong, united country working together in our common interests. Canada Strong means coming together in the face of external pressures. I don't want to know what people are against, but what they're for.
Later in the same video, the Prime Minister suggested the climate policies of Justin Trudeau's government aren't the right fit for the times, and he admitted greenhouse gas emissions will go up because of his government's plans for oil and gas.
The goal remains the same, but as times have changed, we must change our plan to get there. We can't afford to restrain the growth of an important part of our energy mix, oil and gas, to meet a short-term goal. I want to be clear on this point. The changes we have made will mean that our emissions will be higher in the next few years than they were projected to be under the previous government's plan. But in my judgment, that plan was not sustainable over the long term. It would have been too expensive for Canadians who are already struggling with affordability. It would have let down our partners who need new sources of energy, and it would do so right at the time when we need them to help us become more independent of the United States. And it would have been too divisive for our country. In the current environment, the old plan was an open opportunity for those people who wish to pull Canada apart, both at home and from abroad.
As for that pipeline from Alberta to the West Coast, there's still no private sector company that has said it wants to build it. And that's not a surprise, according to Professor Jarrett Wesley of the University of Alberta, given the politics of Alberta right now.
Separatism, right? I mean, I don't know an investor who would look at the political situation in Alberta right now and be, jumping up quickly to invest in a pipeline when they don't know which country that pipeline will start in. And so I think you can add that. I also think that there's folks in the business community that see this as an opportunity to gain even more leverage with governments to deregulate the industry, right? And so I think the provincial and federal governments have really put themselves in a bind here by setting a strict set of timelines to make these decisions, and companies know that. And companies are able to exact, regulatory concessions and other things, and quite probably, major public investment. And so that's part of the negotiations as well.
Retired political scientist Keith Brownsey from Mount Royal University in Calgary says, in addition to the separation debate in Alberta, resistance to a new oil pipeline in BC is also keeping private sector companies on the sidelines.
The premier in BC, David Eby, has made it very clear his province wants nothing to do with an oil pipeline to the west coast, at least in the northern half of the province. And his government is absolutely opposed to it. And there are some constitutional issues around that opposition that still have to be worked through.
The Prime Minister is not in Alberta today. Mark Carney is in British Columbia. He will meet and make a multi-billion-dollar announcement alongside Premier David Eby. He will also hold meetings with the President of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr. The Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre, is in Alberta today. He is having a news conference in Camrose. And that is coming up in about an hour from now. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now You Know with Rob Snow
Returns on News Radio.
Well, he's my friend on the right side of things. Michael Taube is back, columnist with the National Post, Loonie Politics, and Troy Media. Michael was the speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Are you in Toronto today?
I am indeed, Rob.
Hot and sticky Toronto. I was just looking up the weather in Toronto. 31 feels like 41 with the Humidex right now. Goodness
That's right.
Me.
It's been like
Michael.
that for a few days. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Hope you're staying cool. Well, Canada Day is in the rearview mirror. I hope you had a good Canada Day. So let's look ahead. July 4th in the United States is Saturday, and it's a big one. America at 250 years old. Now, according to a recent survey by the Pew Research Center, Michael, Americans are in a sour mood, and most say the country's best days are behind it. I'm just curious, given it's America's birthday on Saturday, how do you feel about the United States these days?
I still have a positive attitude about the United States. Not much has changed. It's a great country, one of the forebearers and one of the leaders when it comes to cherished ideas such as freedom, personal freedom, liberty, it's championing free markets, championing democracy, fighting for the free world. If you look at the history of it, it's superb. And sure, are they in a rough patch right now? I think you'd be pretty hard-pressed not to say no. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that we should necessarily sour on the United States or that Americans should sour on their own country. Now, Pew Research obviously is a respectable polling firm, and it's nonpartisan, truly is, and it has always produced, research materials, stats, charts, etc., that have always been helpful to lots of people and of benefit to, say, me and others who are writing about it. And at the same time, you have to believe that, yes, I'm sure there's plenty of Americans who are not pleased, but we've talked about this, and I've talked about it with many others, and they've written about it and spoken about it for years. We all have. America is politically polarized right now. So if you have groups of Americans looking at what's happening in the country, not just with U.S. President Donald Trump, but everything involving the United States, there would be some who would be extremely frustrated, and there are others who would be content. Now, are the country's best days behind it? I guess is the key thing, and that's something we may get into a bit more.
Yeah.
The answer is no, it isn't. Having a difficult period of time or a rocky patch does not mean that we can predict into the future and determine what the United States is going to be. You know, I've used the line a million times. Donald Trump will be president until 2028. He will be out of office then. We do not know who his replacement will be. It could be worse, it could be better, it could be the same. But regardless, to say that America's best days are behind it, no. But are things going to be different going forward, or at least for the interim? Yes.
Yeah, Pew Research, this is what it asks. Most Americans think the country's best days are behind us. Among U.S. adults, all in all, they are with the way things are going in this country today. 69% of Americans are dissatisfied with the direction of the country. 69%. So they call it 7 out of 10.
Sure.
Thinking about the future of the United States, they think the country's best years are ahead of us or behind us. And it's basically 60-40, with 60% saying they're behind us instead of ahead of us for the United States. And that's Americans saying that. Where do you think that sentiment comes from?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, much as I often say voters are fickle, well, people are fickle too. And, you know, they always use the term Karen for the way people look at things, but this sort of sounds like it. Now, again, people have every right to be opposed to or in support of anything the United States does, from tariffs all the way to the war in Iran. We understand that. That's how democracy works. But the fact is that people think with their emotions a lot more than their brains these days, and I think that's pretty fair to say, and we see it in a lot of different ways. I think something like this is a snapshot of how people are feeling now, but let's say in a few months things are perking up and the economy continues to roll and there are no wars in the balance, and things seem to be moving along tickety-boo, as they say. You don't think that numbers like this and polls like this will change? Of course they will, because unfortunately, people's opinions, views, and ideas flip on a dime. They really do today, and we see it in the way people are frustrated with how they respond on interviews, how they discuss things with their friends, neighbors, and family, how they do things on social media, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not great to hear any of this, but I think that it's a very much a short-term rather than a long-term thing.
Yeah, there's and you mentioned the polarization. There's a very partisan divide in how people view the direction of the country and whether they're satisfied with the direction of the United States. If you're a Republican or you lean Republican, you're much more likely to be satisfied with the direction of the country. Much less so if you're a Democrat, Michael. Much less so, according to this survey.
But remember, as you and I and many of the listeners know, every single house is controlled by the Republicans, and the White House is controlled by Republicans. Yes, they're all by razor-thin margins, but the Republicans basically control Congress right now and the White House. So if you're a Democrat, why wouldn't you be happy with that? I understand that. But if the situation was flipped and there was a Democratic president in office and both the House of Representatives and the Senate were Democratic-leaning, you'd know that obviously everything you just mentioned, which I'm sure is accurate, would almost be reversed because, again, ideologically, the U.S. is flipped between conservative and liberals. It's almost a harsh 50-50 line. So obviously things swing or blow with the political winds, depending on which way they're shifting.
Yeah, well, let's talk about one side of that polarized United States, what's happening with the Democrats, and whether the Democratic Party is about to make a very hard left turn with the rise. I'll ask Michael about the rise, if there is a rise, of the Democratic Socialists. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Back with Michael Taube, columnist with the National Post, Loonie, Politics, and Troy Media, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. The rise of the socialists, Michael, is that what we're seeing? How do you explain the seeming popularity these days of some Democratic socialists when it comes to election results? First, we had Mandani in New York City became the mayor, Democratic socialist, who endorsed three candidates who recently won Democratic primaries in New York. There was another one just the other day in Colorado.
That's right.
Do you think socialism, democratic socialism, is on the rise in the United States? Are these one-offs? What do you think?
Well, I mean, you can associate one or two with one-offs, obviously, and there have been socialists or committed democratic socialists in politics before. Bernie Sanders is a classic example in Vermont. But there does seem to be something going on. I mean, the Democratic Socialists of America, the offshoot, have been around a long time, but it seems that they're much more popular than before. And it's interesting because we just talked about Pew Research in the first segment. Well, here's another thing from Pew Research. And so they did a study asking, just in terms of what Democrats think about democratic socialists. I mean, I think is the easiest way to explain it. So this is from a Pew Research survey, and I took it from the New York Post, although it's been reprinted in other papers, to quote, a firm 32% of Democrats indicated that they like democratic socialist polls, compared to just 11% who don't and 56% who have no strong opinions on them, according to a survey from Pew Research. Predictably, among self-described liberal Democrats, 52% like politicians who identify as democratic socialists, while 4% dislike them, and 43% don't have an opinion. Again, that's from Pew Research, which we discussed before. What this means is that, yes, Zoran Mamdani's success in New York City, as in getting elected mayor and having influence on 3 congressional races, has had an impact. What happened in Colorado, or in Denver specifically, also had an impact, maybe not as wildly direct to Mamdani, who's not from that state, but obviously his public profile had gave a little bit of help or gave some aid in that general point. Here's the thing, which is interesting, and we talked about this, political polarization in the first segment. This is what's starting to happen. Sure, there are Democrats who don't like socialism and are opposed to it, but that number is very few and far between today as it was compared to 20, 30, 40 years ago or beyond. There is a huge shift happening now between liberals and conservatives in the United States, and based on what Pew Research is saying, the interest in democratic socialism amongst, I guess, young people, far-left radicals, new immigrants, and various others is on the rise.
Yeah, it's interesting because what we've heard from Democratic leaders, like Hakeem Jeffries, for example, the reporting has been, they're kind of concerned about this because they want to portray a moderate Democratic Party, a normal Democratic Party that could be, trusted to win big in the midterms. And these don't help. Like, these victories don't help the Democratic Party, I don't think. That's
not
my
this
opinion.
Yeah, now to be fair, much like we have in Canada as well, there are differences between conservatives and liberals in different parts of the country, north and south, west, midwest, they all look at it differently.
Yep.
So it's interesting, but it's isolated as of right now.
Okay, really good. Great to hear from you. Continue to beat the heat, Michael. Thank you.
I'm going to try. You too. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye. Michael Taube in Toronto today. Syndicated columnist, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Our Newsday panel next, Focus Nova Scotia. Lots to discuss. This is News Radio.
Now you know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
Well, it's time for the Thursday Newsday panel. That means it's time for Focus Nova Scotia. Lisa Blackburn is back with us, former Halifax City Councillor and NDP candidate. Hi, Lisa.
And happy belated Canada Day.
Same to you, Lisa. I hope it went well. Clinton Desveaux is back with us, columnist, political commentator, broadcaster. How are you, Clinton?
I'm well. I guess what would I say? Happy Canada Day weekend, I guess we'll call this.
That works for me. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
How was Canada Day in that part of the country?
Well, I
anyway?
mean, we had, 3 feet of water in Ottawa, 35 degrees Celsius temperatures with extreme humidity, and lightning bolts all day. So it was quite an adventure.
Yeah, it sure was. In Halifax, you're getting the heat tomorrow. It's actually quite nice there now.
Yeah, it's sort of ramping up now, but yesterday was beautiful. We had sunny skies for Canada Day, and didn't hear of any postponement of events or fireworks. So I think everything went off without a hitch here.
Yeah, 31 degrees is the high for Halifax tomorrow. So you'll be in a humidex in the low 40s. So you'll be getting what we've been having in this part of the country. So look, with that as a backdrop, I want to get your take on this. Prime Minister Mark Carney is doing what I would call a near total reversal of the climate policies of the Trudeau government. Okay, it looks more and more like there's going to be a pipeline from Alberta to BC. Mark Carney canceled the carbon tax. He has loosened the industrial carbon tax for Alberta. In a video posted a couple of days ago on his YouTube channel, he admitted that Canada's greenhouse gas emissions are going to increase because Canada is going to leverage oil and gas. And he says the emissions targets and the climate policies of the past are bad for national unity. Now, Lisa, in Nova Scotia, every MP is a Liberal MP.
Mm.
And Nova Scotians have lived through their share of extreme events, wildfires, droughts, hurricanes, you name it, you've had it. So I wonder how you think this retreat on climate policy is going to go over in Nova Scotia. What do you think?
I'm thinking that the Nova Scotia Liberal MPs are going to have a tough slog on the barbecue circuit this summer because, they have spent years defending carbon pricing and the ambitious emission targets, and now they've got to reverse course and explain why the strategy has changed. So, and you're right. I mean, Nova Scotians are conflicted. On one side, I'm sure Tim Houston is thrilled because he has long argued that Canada needs to build more and to get major projects moving faster. But as you point out, here in Nova Scotia, we have lived through, just in the last 5 years, devastating wildfires, hurricanes, flooding, and drought. So, when we get the heat warnings like we have here today, climate change is not theoretical, and we certainly realize the implications of it.
Okay, very interesting. Clinton, what do you think, Clinton?
Well, I mean, let me start off by saying it's fair. Yes, the current prime minister has changed the policy agenda of Canada and the government agenda. Quite frankly, I think it's for the positive. I think Canadians are happy that former Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is now long in the rearview mirror, and I think Canadians are looking forward to what's to come in the future. Having said that, I mean, this country is in a deep potential economic crisis due to the United States looking to walk away from CUSMA, or better known as NAFTA for the public at large. So the North American Free Trade Agreement's about to disappear, and the reality is that we need pipelines in order to generate export wealth. So my prediction is not only are we going to have an oil pipeline going to BC, but we're going to have an LNG pipeline going to Hudson Bay through the Port of Churchill. So I think Canadians are on board for this. I think that there's been a dramatic shift in the view of Canadians because of everything that's happening south of the border. And the reality is we have to, we're either going to swim or we're going to sink. And I'd much rather swim than sink, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But what about the backdrop of, extreme weather events, though?
Well, look, I mean, I think
droughts,
extreme weather events obviously are an important issue that we're going to have to deal with. I think we're going to have to mitigate risks, and I think that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So I think that we can export energy while we can also build out hydroelectric power, while we build out additional nuclear capacity, while we build out wind west from Nova Scotia feeding wind.
The other Atlantic provinces and New England states. I guess that's the plan for wind west.
Yes, I mean,
right?
I think I don't think it's an either or situation, Rob. I think we have to look at a balanced approach, and I think we're going to have to walk and chew gum at the same time, and that's going to mean embracing fossil fuels while also, promoting more clean energy like wind west and nuclear and hydroelectricity.
Okay. Yep. What do you think about that? I mean, that will likely be the explanation, I think, from the Liberal Party.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Lisa?
Well, I think many people in Nova Scotia will welcome the focus on affordability and just getting projects built. But at the same time, I think we also want reassurance that this isn't giving up on climate action. After everything we've experienced here, people still expect the federal government to have a credible climate plan. And I don't think Carney is saying that climate change matters less. I think what he's trying to say is that economic growth and national unity have also become part of the climate conversation. And whether or not Canadians agree, I think, is the question.
Okay. When we come back, it's the season of major sporting events and concerts and festivals. If you were to hold a major concert or hold a major sporting event, like, say, a World Cup soccer game, where would you have that in Halifax? This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
Focus Nova Scotia with Lisa Blackburn and Clinton Desveaux again today. 'Tis the season of major sporting events, big concerts. Let me ask you this. Does Halifax need a modern outdoor stadium, like something that could host events 25,000, 30,000 people or more? Lisa, what do you think, Lisa?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
But we are at that age now. I definitely think that the demand is stronger than it was 10 to 15 years ago. And so, full disclosure, I was on council during the last major stadium push. So I remember all the promises of economic spin-offs and tourism and concerts and big sporting events. And I think politicians have to learn to separate the vision from the business case. Haligonians have been clear and consistent over the last, 20 years that this conversation has been had. They like the idea of a stadium, but they don't want to write the check. And
right.
Like them, I'm against taxpayers carrying the risk for this. If there is a business case, then go for it. I mean, if a private consortium thinks that Halifax can support a 25,000 or 30,000 seat venue, then go for it. And certainly municipalities, governments can support that type of endeavor without using taxpayer money. I think public money should only be on the table if there is clear public benefit, things like roads and transit or water infrastructure, just, stuff that the community would have needed anyway. But yeah, Halifax is growing quickly. We're becoming a bigger destination for entertainment, and, perhaps that conversation is worth having again, but I think the financing model has to be different.
Sure. There was this news story, Clinton, a few months ago about, and even reports that local, provincial, and federal politicians were being pitched a stadium proposal on the outskirts, but it doesn't seem as though anything's going to come of that. What do you think about this idea? Like an evergreen thing.
A couple of things. So first of all, the greater Halifax area's population is closing in on 600,000 people. So Halifax has sort of moved from being a big town into being a small city. And so the issue is that if Haligonians want to be part of these national events. So let's take, for example, the Grey Cup. So the CFL's Grey Cup, it moves around from different cities every year. And, a city like Halifax is never going to host a Grey Cup until a venue is built, because we don't have a venue that can hold anything more than, maybe 8,000 or 10,000 people. So do I think there's an appetite for it? I think the public is chomping at the bit to get it. Do I think the public wants to see tax dollars thrown at a stadium? Probably not, but I think there are things that the municipal and provincial governments can do, right, in order to sort of expedite this and move this project along. So one of the things they could do is they could maybe provide the land for like $1 or something. They could provide like the water infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure, those kinds of things.
Yeah, they would have to. Yeah. I mean, this is to Lisa's point. I mean,
I
hear this all the time. Well, taxpayers don't want to put any money into a private stadium proposal. I get that. I understand that sentiment. But there's going to be, if a project like this is ever going to move ahead, there is a role for the municipality.
I agree with you. I agree wholeheartedly.
And the municipality can recoup some of these costs through development charges. Like sorry, Clinton, it's the municipality that's going to have to provide water infrastructure, sewer infrastructure. If you're going to have an event with 30,000 people, you need transit infrastructure. That's municipal, right? So how do you do that? You recoup it through things like development charges. You can do it through surcharges on tickets, things like that. I mean, there are options here, right, for municipalities. But the idea that the municipality would have no role or there wouldn't be any cost to it, there would be cost to it. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. I agree with you, and I think all of those options that you just listed are ways in order to get a stadium built. And I mean, like, as you touch this off, if it's a soccer game, like, so Halifax has a professional soccer club, and the games are sold out, but the venue can only host about 5,000 people. So even something as like a soccer championship, an outdoor concert venue, a Grey Cup game, the list goes on and on and on. Like, if Halifax is going to grow into a bigger sort of capital for Atlantic Canada, then it's going to need a venue that represents us being the capital of Atlantic Canada.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you see, Lisa, you would see a role for the municipality. It would have to be involved one way or the other, right? Municipal resources would go to such a project.
Yeah, and as I point out, I mean, certainly things like, expansion of roads, transit service, that sort of thing, those are costs or things that the municipality can do. But, the idea of writing a check, especially after the budget season that Halifax just went through, no, I think most Haligonians would say, show me a credible business plan that has significant private investment, some realistic attendance projections, and limited taxpayer exposure. And, if the private sector believes that the market is there, then that's a much easier conversation to have at the municipal level.
Okay. When we come back, we'll talk about surplus land for affordable housing in the HRM and paid parking. The end of parking for free downtown in Halifax on Saturday. That's coming to an end. We'll discuss when we return. This is News Radio.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers.
On News Radio.
Clinton Desveaux is with us, columnist, political commentator, broadcaster. Lisa Blackburn is a former Halifax City Councillor, NDP candidate. It's Focus Nova Scotia on this Thursday. The regional government in Halifax ran a pilot program to identify surplus land that could be used for affordable housing development. It found one lot. One. I find this odd. Lisa, maybe you know more about it than I do. What do you think about it?
Yeah, so it's not really as odd as you might think. So during my time on council, one thing became very clear, and that's that HRM, Halifax Regional Municipality, does not own a lot of large developable pieces of land. Most municipal land is already being used for parks, recreation, roads, that sort of thing. But what we do have is a lot of little parcels, like remnants from road alignments and things like that. The other piece, too, is that the sites had very specific criteria. So they had to be surplus service, suitable for residential development, close to transit. And, once you apply all of those filters, that list then becomes very, very short. So I'm not sure that tells us that there's something wrong with the program. I think that it tells us that there isn't a hidden inventory of vacant municipal land that's waiting to be developed.
Okay. What do you think, Clinton?
Yeah, I take the opposite view. I think it tells us there's a lot of land waiting to be developed. And I think that Lisa inadvertently explained why. The bureaucrats and the politicians that put this process together created all sorts of ways to essentially keep the city from coughing up land. So if it's not, deemed close enough to public transit, then it's removed from the list. Well, Halifax has very limited public transit, quite frankly. And so if that's going to be one of the check marks on the list, then you're not going to have a lot of options to choose from. So I think this was a faulty process that was created from the start. And it obviously produced the clown show results that we've seen here, where the city says with a straight face, well, we just have one lot available that we could develop. So the whole thing to me looks like a joke.
Okay. All right. Let's move along. How do you think people are going to feel about having to pay for parking on Saturdays in downtown Halifax now that that's coming to an end? Could it hurt businesses? Could it hurt tourism? Is it a cash grab for the city? What do you think, Lisa?
Well, I mean, nobody likes paying for something that used to be free. So that's just human nature. So I understand why people are frustrated. But I mean, let's face it, municipalities have very limited ways to raise revenue. Basically, you got your property taxes, you got your user fees, and there's a handful of other sources, but that's it. And parking revenue is one of them. So the idea of paid Saturday parking is certainly not new. This was something that was debated at council for many years. And, I get it. And certainly it depends on how things are implemented as to whether or not it'll hurt business downtown, because, one of the things that was pointed out is that Halifax doesn't have a parking shortage. We have a free parking shortage. There's all kinds of parking spaces downtown if you're willing to pay.
Okay. In 20 seconds, Clinton. 20 seconds.
I think they're nickel and diming us, and I think there's a lack of public transit. There's a lack of bike lanes, and now they want to tell people who are going to drive into the city, you're going to have to pay on weekends. So I think it looks ridiculous.
Okay. Good to hear from everyone. Go beat the heat, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye. Talkback next.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic, weather and climate change. Weather and climate change. Various parts of Canada right now are dealing with things like terrible flooding, smoky skies, extreme heat and humidity. So here's our question today. In your opinion, is this just normal weather? Or is this the extreme weather caused by climate change? Human-caused climate change. What is your opinion on this, please? At 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. Normal weather or extreme weather caused by climate change? Let me give you some examples of the kind of things that have been in the news recently. Dauphin, Manitoba has declared a state of emergency because of terrible flooding. Part of Manitoba has just been swamped with rain. The premier of Manitoba, Wab Kinew, has called it unprecedented weather. Unprecedented. As in, it's never happened before. And people are being told to leave their homes. Bridges have been washed out, roads impassable. Just normal weather? Or is that climate change? In Ottawa yesterday, they had to cancel most of the Canada Day events. First of all, the heat was almost unbearable, with highs in the low 30s and very, very humid. The Humidex readings were in the mid-40s. I mean, heavy, sticky, muggy weather. So during Canada Day, they managed to put the noontime show on, but as the afternoon wore on, the skies opened up and there were torrential downpours, strong winds, streets and highways flooded. The main highway through Ottawa, it looked like a river. They had to cancel the evening Canada Day events. And the Prime Minister was supposed to fly to Edmonton, but the weather was so bad, his plane couldn't get off the ground. Ottawa had yesterday, in just a few hours, more than 100 millimeters of rain. 100 millimeters of rain in just a few hours. And that seems to be becoming more common. 100 millimeters of rain in just a few hours. Just about a week ago, a similar type of storm hit parts of Montreal. Homes and businesses flooded. And that part of Montreal, it too had more than 100 millimeters of rain in just a few hours. 100 millimeters. Is that normal weather? Or is that the extreme weather that we've all been warned about, the kind of weather caused by climate change? 1-833-668-2577. In Toronto today, it's supposed to hit 35 degrees. 35 degrees today in Toronto without factoring in the humidity. You take the humidex reading, is going to be 44 degrees. It'll feel like 44 degrees. At 10 o'clock this morning, it was already 27. Can you imagine being stuck in rush hour traffic in that kind of weather, or in an apartment building with no air conditioning? I mean, this is the kind of heat that can be deadly for some people. Our friends in Kitchener know all about this kind of heat. They're living it today. Could be 34 degrees there today. Humidex reading of 44. Is that normal Kitchener weather for the first week of July? Just normal stuff? Normal summertime weather? Or is that extreme? The heat that has enveloped much of Ontario and Quebec in the last few days is slowly making its way to Atlantic Canada. It'll be in the low 30s in Halifax tomorrow. Saturday, Sunday, daytime highs in the low 30s, humidex readings in the low 40s. Is that normal? Is that normal Halifax weather? 31, 32 degrees? Is that normal, or is that extreme? Extreme weather, likely driven by climate change. What do you think? Share your opinions, please. Where I am right now, in West Quebec, not far from Ottawa, we have been told to keep our eyes on the skies and be aware that there is a risk of a tornado. We've had tornadoes around here before, but it's kind of a recent thing. I've lived in this part of the country for about 35 years, and it's only in recent years that we were ever warned about tornadoes. But maybe that's just, I don't know, the new normal. You look at Environment Canada's national weather map, you'll see from Baffin Bay to the Northwest Territories to northern Alberta and all across the prairies, from southern Ontario east to central Newfoundland. There are a mix of weather warnings in effect, from air quality warnings because of wildfires to heat warnings because of what Environment Canada is calling a long-duration heat event, or what normal people would call a heat wave. The heat wave in France, you may have heard, it's been making international news. Last week, some parts of France were recording temperatures in the low 40s, 42 degrees, 43 degrees without a humidex reading. France has something called the National Temperature Indicator that takes the average of day and night temperature readings. And one day last week, it hit 30 degrees, and it's never done that before. They started tracking that data point in 1947. It never hit 30 degrees before. More than 40 people in France drowned because they had to escape into waterways to seek relief from the heat. The World Health Organization says there have been 1,000 excess deaths because of the heat. Does that sound like what? Normal weather? Or is it the kind of weather that we have been warned about for years? The extreme weather caused by climate change. Human-caused climate change. What do you think? Have your say. Share your opinion. Is this just normal summertime stuff? Or is it anything but normal? 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. If you have never called before, just mention that, and we'll make your call a priority. Now let's talk about this weather and the climate. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Parts of Canada are dealing with flooding and a heat wave. Just normal Weather, what do you think? Or extreme weather caused by climate change? 1-833-668-2577. That's what we're talking about today on Talkback. Good to be with you after Canada Day. I hope everybody had a good Canada Day. It's great to be back on the air with you. Dave is in Mill Cove, Nova Scotia. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Rob. Long time no talk. Always a pleasure to get through to your show. How's your day going?
It's smoking hot, sir. Yeah, smoking hot in this part of the country. Yeah, it really is. There's no air conditioning in my little studio here. It's 26 degrees in my workplace today. It's almost like a hazardous workplace.
Give me the name of your manager. I'll get that straightened out for you.
Don't worry about that. I'm getting through. Don't worry about it. I'm staying hydrated. I'm having frequent hydration breaks, Dave. So, Dave, this weather that's happening in these parts of the country, you think that's just normal stuff, or is this climate change?
No, I think it's the new normal, and I think it's instigated by climate change. And in my opinion, I'm going to be 70 in December, and I don't think that before I leave this mortal coil, I'm going to see the exit of oil and gas as part of the world's energy mixture. I know they're headed towards strictly renewables, but that's going to take a long time, and oil and gas are going to have to be part of that mix. Now, as far as the temperatures that we're seeing, I originally came from Southern Ontario. I spent my entire life between Etobicoke, Toronto, and as far out as the Niagara region. And summers were always hot and humid. It was just part of the landscape. We'd had it for a number of years. And I remember distinctly in the summer of 2011, which was about 6 months before we uprooted and moved here, we went to my buddy's place. He had a pool. And the heat and humidity temperature combined for that day was 50.1.
Wow.
So, in my opinion, I think that we've tipped the scale on climate change because of fossil fuel burning that's been going on for a century. And my fear is that we're only seeing the start of it. And that if we stopped all emissions tomorrow, we'd still have to go a few years, possibly more than that, before we could recycle the atmosphere to a level that it's much more habitable for the planet and the beings that live upon it. So that may seem like a bit of a downer kind of opinion, but based on what I see, I just think that, perhaps it's...
So when I say today, just one quick thing, and then I'll let you go. As a Southern Ontario resident for a long time, 35 degrees in Toronto today on July 2nd. Unusual? Is that unusual?
Not for Toronto. No, not for Toronto. Not for mostly Southern Ontario. We used to get the early signs of climate change via pollution. We used to get smog out of the Ohio Valley on a regular basis that hit the Toronto area and all for hundreds of miles around it. Now that has eased because they cut back on thermal energy plants.
Well, However, Ontario used to make a lot of electricity from coal too, Dave, and it doesn't do that anymore, and that's alleviated a lot of the smog situation in Southern Ontario. I'm going to have to run, though. I really appreciate it. I'd be curious to see if that's the minority opinion today or not. To Cambridge, Ontario. Doug is there. Hello, Doug.
Hello, Rob.
Hi, Doug.
I agree.
What do you think?
I agree. I agree a fair bit with your first caller. But how was it? Used to hear it put, climate is what you expect, weather is what you get. And now I'm what you call an Elvis tribute artist, and I'm the Collingwood Elvis Festival for over 15 to 20 years. And it was always at the end of July, and the weather was always hard to you're performing outdoors, and it's sweaty. It was like that all the time, except for the last 4 or 5 years, it started to shift. And I think not so much climate change as we're getting climate shift. Being on a farm right now, weather seems to be so different when the seasons change, seems to come a little bit later. Winter lasts a little longer, summer starts a little later, fall starts a little bit later, or, as last year, the snow came in November here and it never left. But some more extremes seem to be happening. How did your previous caller put it? The new normal. I'm on board with that. This world is aging. Things have gotten a little bit more extreme simply because that's the way the world works. When as it gets older, I think the concept, the patterns, and concepts.
So again, as somebody who's very experienced and has seen a few summers in his life, Doug, I must ask you: 33 degrees. 33 degrees. Would you say what is that, normal or is that extreme?
I would say it's more normal than extreme. I know we had a family that lived in the Toronto area, and they'd always be baking crazy. Become early July, they'd be looking to get out of the city because it would just be so hot. The concrete, of course, and bricks and everything else, mortar, reflects the heat so bad. So it's not really extreme, except for the fact that I don't believe this is all we're going to get. This is the worst it's going to be. I think we're going to have a little bit more, a few more bouts of extended weather, simply because that's the new normal.
New normal. Okay, thank you. Yeah, two very interesting calls to begin. 1-833-668-2577. Flooding, heat waves, smoky skies. Is it normal weather or is it extreme weather caused by climate change? 1-833-668-2577. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Talking about the weather, talking about the climate today, whether some of the weather across the country, terrible flooding, heat waves, whether this is just normal weather or whether it's extreme and it's caused by climate change. Dave is in Halifax. Hello, Dave. Hi, Dave.
Yes, hello, Rob. Thanks for taking my call, sir.
You're welcome, Dave. Yeah, go ahead.
1961 was our first weather satellite launched, and it was probably very archaic. 1961, not that long ago as far as keeping records. We're right now going through, if you follow the forecasting of the sun, because we've come a long way, and we do, we're going through a very vicious solar maximum, which means solar flares are thrown further out into our solar system, which is no doubt, I've talked to people, scientists, that are familiar with this, and they don't deny that it could be interrupting our weather. You will have the magnetic shifts that's going on right now, and that's a fact. The Earth is wobbling. Are we doing any I don't know. It seems every time, Rob, this fear of climate change, which at one time, thanks to, I'm trying to remember, the global guru that wrote the book, The Inconvenient Truth, that was called global warming. Now they've changed it, climate change. Some parts of the world is actually getting colder and ice is growing. And I think in South America, Argentina, Peru, glaciers are actually getting larger, whereas some areas are getting smaller, I suppose.
So if I could, I come back to this. Tomorrow it'll be 31 where you are, and then on Saturday it'll be 30 where you are. And you've had your fill there. You've been hit by hurricanes. You've been hit with droughts. You've had terrible wildfires. Is all of that just a normal thing, a natural thing, or is it driven by human-caused climate change?
Rob, humans started these fires. Almost every fire that started is not lightning here. And by the way, we haven't had a hurricane in 2 years. Every year I keep hearing we're going to have above normal. I live in Halifax, right? I've been here since 2000.
That's why I'm asking the question.
We've had a few tropical storms. Pardon me?
That's why I'm asking you. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, we haven't seen any hurricanes here for the last couple years. And the fact is, we're sticking out in the Atlantic, and hurricanes do come up the coast. That's a natural phenomena that actually should be happening because it fills up the Florida Everglades. Also, I don't know if I mentioned, every time we hear climate change, we get hit with a carbon tax, more taxes. We get environmental taxes. Where is that money going? Is it curing the environment, Rob? Or is it going flying carny around the globe? I don't know. To me, it seems like a gimmick. And besides, on ending, ask Venezuela how they feel about the climate. That is not climate. That was two brutal earthquakes that leveled, is it Caracas, I'm thinking, in Venezuela, the city of Caracas? And God bless their souls. But that's nature. This ball will shake us off like a flea when it's ready. Then we got to quit building around rivers. Rivers flood all the time. We populated around rivers and
well,
oceans.
there's something to that.
Storms
there
come
is
in.
something to that. Yeah, there is something to that. Thank you. Dave, very passionate on the opinion there. Love to hear it. Keep them coming. Right after the latest breaking news, more of your calls. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
We have news stories aplenty about parts of Canada dealing with flooding, heat waves, smoky skies, just normal weather? Or is this the kind of weather we've been warned about for years? The kind of weather driven by climate change. That's what we're talking about today on Talkback with Rick in Dartmouth. Hello, Rick.
Okay. Hey, bud. Look, I've been watching this whole thing from the beginning. Let me make a couple of points, and I'll make them quickly. The fires that started in Nova Scotia that you referred to were all human-started. That was number one. Number two, the tide gauge in Halifax Harper records 1 inch of sea level rise every 10 years and has been recording the exact same amount since the 1870s. Okay? Nova Scotia is a maritime climate. Ontario is a continental climate. Within those two things, there are grave differences. There's the joke. The reporter asked the Amish guy, "Aren't you worried about climate change?" And he says, "No, we don't have TV." Humans are short-sighted. The record high temperature for Halifax.
I'm sorry, I never heard that one before, Rick. I'm gonna sock that one away. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh, we have TV. Anyway, the record high temperature in Halifax was 37 degrees, and guess when that was? Well, I don't want you to guess. It was July the 12th.
1930 something, maybe.
1910. Okay, so anyway, I studied all of this stuff. Second thing, or 10th thing, the population of the Earth is now 8 billion opposed to 2 billion when I entered the planet. Okay, and you know the media saying, if it bleeds, it leads. That's why climate change gets a fair amount of exposure, okay? So within all of that, in 1983, I put solar panels, thermal solar panels, on our house because all the climate scientists were saying that we were going to have an ice age in the 70s, okay, because the 60s were so cold. So all I'm saying is that whenever you look at where you live and what you have, remember we only had one actual hurricane in Nova Scotia that I can remember in this century was 2003 Hurricane Juan. The rest were post-tropical storms. They might have been a hurricane just before they made landfall, but it was only Hurricane Juan that actually hit here with 140-mile-an-hour winds in 2003. All of the other things your buddy talked about earlier were not hurricanes. One or two of them might have hit somewhere else, but not in Halifax, and they were close to hurricanes, but they weren't hurricanes. They did.
But still did a lot of damage.
They did
still did a lot
sure.
of damage.
But,
right.
But as he said, he was 100% correct. If you look at the map, I mean, for many of us who watched the hurricanes, we watch the track come up the East Coast. It's just, and Newfoundland is in the same position. It's just farther out, but it got hit by a couple of bad ones too, you know. But these are normal things, and that's all I got to say.
Okay. Well, you've said it. Thank you. Moving along from Dartmouth to Calgary we go. John is there. Hello, John.
Hey, Rob. How's it going?
Yeah, very well, John. Thank you. What would you say, John? What's your opinion?
With respect to this climate change, I don't believe it's man-made. I think it's been happening forever. We're coming out of a Pleistocene, and what some of your previous callers said, I think what we should be doing is accepting it's happening and adapt to it. And if I point to what happened here in 2013, we had major league flooding. And then since then, I'm not usually too complimentary of our governments, but they've done a great job. And they put in a lot of flood mitigation, and we just had a lot of rain over the last couple weeks here. And now they went out to the Kananaskis golf course, interviewed a guy, and he said, with respect to what the government did, it saved the golf course. We have no problem. Same thing for Canmore, same thing for here in Calgary. And then the other point I want to make is with respect to pipelines. I heard your previous guest. I don't believe it, as you can tell, I don't believe that it's caused by man and fossil fuels. And with respect to the pipelines, if you look at the Irvine refinery, if that oil that they're receiving, if it was being supplied from Western Canada, there wouldn't be another service station, for example, opening up in Halifax that now has oil from Alberta and one that has Alberta from Venezuela. And the consumption of oil doesn't go up with pipelines. It just gets replacing bad with good. And I maintain that if we were to build 20 pipelines, the world's greenhouse gas emissions would go down because we are so much more responsible in the way we produce our fossil fuels as opposed to the rest of the world.
Okay, so let me just read this to you because this is a line that caused a lot of debate when I read it the first time. It was in a news story published by Reuters when the big story was hottest year ever. It was the hottest year ever. Quote, the long-established consensus among the world's scientists is that climate change is real, mostly caused by humans, and getting worse. Its main cause is greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, which trap heat in the atmosphere. You don't think that's true?
Well, I don't have a degree I've got a business degree and a master's in common sense. And I'm just looking at, for example, one of your previous callers were talking about it, but I'm looking here online. British Columbia's hottest year, 2021. Saskatchewan, 1937. Manitoba, 1936. Alberta, 1941. Ontario, 1975. Quebec, 1975. New Brunswick, 1935. Nova Scotia, 1935. PEI, 1935. Newfoundland, 1930. Northwest Territories, 1939. No, 41. Nunavik was 89. And the Yukon was 49. So I don't know. It's tough to go along with that. I agree with climate is changing, absolutely. And I think there's going to be some winners and losers, and we've got to adapt to it. My tomatoes are doing better than they were 20 years ago.
Good to be a tomato. All right. Thank you. Be right back. Talkback News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Situation with weather in some parts of the country. Heavy torrential downpours causing flooding. Very hot, humid. Temperatures in the low 30s. Humidex readings in the 40s. Is all of this just normal, or is this the kind of weather that's driven by climate change and made worse by climate change? What do you think? Let's go to Keith is in Halifax, I believe, or somewhere in Nova Scotia anyway. Hello, Keith.
Hello, Keith. Hi, Rob. How are you today?
Yeah, very good. Good to hear from you. What's your opinion?
Well, I think a lot of this weather, like I just went in and Googled my province here in Nova Scotia about average temperatures for July.
Yes.
And so the average temperature here in Nova Scotia in July is between 23 to 25, right? And overnight lows down to 13 to 15. And sometimes during individual heat waves and humidity often push daily temperatures into the 30 to 32 degrees. So it just seems like weather is just being weather. And regional variations depend heavily on the exact location. So, I think it's just weather doing what weather does. what it's always done.
All right. What it's always done?
Oh, yeah, I think it's just probably, we've had stuff like this before weather was recorded, temperatures were recorded. And, we've had 5 ice ages on this planet. So
you don't think there's been any noticeable change in the weather or change in, say, the climate, for example? You don't think when it's hot, it's hotter, or when it rains heavier, causing, more issues, or you're not concerned by, last year you had a terrible drought where you are, things like that? You just think that's kind of the normal course of life?
Well, maybe it goes in cycles. Like, I'm not a weather climatologist expert, so
right.
My concern, I'll tell you what, I'll be blunt. My concern is having forest fires. I live fairly close to one that started about 3 years ago, not that far from my place. And my concern is about these are all set by humans. People in the woods.
Being irresponsible. Yeah, being irresponsible. Sure. Okay. I understand that. I guess when it comes, because I hear this, well, irresponsible human activity is responsible for the fires, that were in Nova Scotia, for example, or it comes up when there are fires in other places. But would those fires be as devastating as they have been in the past, were it not so dry, I wonder?
Well, common sense would tell you, yeah. Right? They would be more devastating because it's drier. For sure. But my point is,
all right. Thank you. I got you. You mostly think it's just a normal thing, a cycle. Weather being weather, to use your words. Thank you for your call, Keith. Rob, in Cambridge. First-time caller, Rob. Hi, Rob.
Oh, hi, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, Rob. Thank you. Yeah, what's your opinion?
Great sounding name. I am a meteorologist. I've been working in the field for 39 years, most of my time since very late 1980s. I've been forecasting for the province of Ontario. The climate change is normal. If you look at any literature on past climates, even going back just last 100, 200 years, you will see things like average temperature changes, and maybe there's trends. In the province of Ontario, I have seen a change since 20, 30, 40 years ago. Our average temperature is getting warmer slowly. Whether or not it's caused by humans or natural causes, I, personal opinion, believe it's a combination of both. But most of the change in our weather here seems to be in the fall, winter, and spring. Our summers haven't changed much, and the current heat wave that we are in, I'm calling it a typical, not run-of-the-mill, but a typical heat wave. They tend to last 3 to 5 days of temperatures in the low to mid-30s, and then it breaks. This one may last into the weekend, might be a bit longer, but it's not compared with some past heat waves here. This one so far, it's good, it's up there, but I wouldn't yet call it extreme. It's definitely hotter than normal. We don't see this every day. And if we go back in the weather records for Toronto, you will see, and it's public information, you will be able to find in July of 1936, 3 days in a row, and I believe it's the 7th, 8th, and the 9th, but I could be wrong with the exact dates, but the temperature at the weather station in the city of Toronto, which is sort of like downtown, reached 40.6 Celsius on 3 days in a row. Toronto, to my knowledge, hasn't had over 40 degrees since. Windsor, I saw 40 degrees reached on June 25th, 1988, so relatively recently. But Yeah, so those are extremes. And will it happen again? Yes, I think so. We just don't know when. Are we getting more heavy rainfall events in the summer? Hard to say. We are getting them. Urban areas are larger, so the impact potential is higher. There's more people to be affected now than 40 or 50 years ago, so I think it is a combination. But yes, our climate and weather is changing. I've noticed shifts, and I find it's extremely interesting to keep working with it.
Okay, thank you very much. Be right back with more of your calls. 3-4 lines available there if you want to jump into the conversation. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
If you watch the news recently, you'll see stories about flooding, for example, terrible flooding in Manitoba. And sort of Ontario East, everyone is baking in the heat. These kinds of stories, is this just normal? Just normal, or is it extreme? Is it extreme, and is it caused by climate change? That's what we're talking about today, weather and climate change. Reza in Calgary. Hello, Reza.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Reza. Good to hear from you. What's your opinion?
Yes, a couple things I just want to add to your previous caller. It was a fantastic kind of showcasing what's actually happening. I think Earth's warmest era was 56 million years ago, which was 10 degrees warmer. But the data shows oceans are warming slowly. I think what is causing concern is how fast Earth is warming. In technical terms, we are actually in a cooling era. We are not even in a warm era of planet Earth. But sometimes I see we use weather and climate in different kind of interchangeably. That might be a bit misleading. I use like wildfires as a negative thing. No, we are changing forest management because we avoided these fires, and now the forests have too much fuel and they're not healthy. Fires make forests healthier. So it's a perspective. Some of it is fact. This is a very scientific and complex argument, and climate modeling is toughest modeling you can do. It has a lot of uncertainty, but the trend is upward for sure. How much is human? It's still being debated in scientific community, but climate change is the normal. It's since
Is it really? Okay, let me read you something. This is just from Environment Canada. Okay, this is from is this the official viewpoint of Environment Canada? I would say so. Environment Canada and climate change. It says, quote, climate change is accelerating far beyond natural rates due to human influence. Do you think that's true?
Oh, of course. I said your greenhouse emissions is, as I said in the beginning, it's the rate of change is faster because of our contribution. But anthropogenic or the human cause does not create climate change. It might help it, like pushing it, giving it a nudge, going towards the direction we don't like.
Well, the word they use is accelerating. It's accelerating it. It's accelerating.
Yeah, it's a bit. By how much we don't know. These are very difficult to say, but it's been political topic for many countries to use this. But I don't know. That's my thought.
Okay, thank you, Reza, for sharing your thoughts. I appreciate the call. We'll pick it up in the second hour. The latest breaking news is coming up next. Busy news day across the country. This is News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. It's great to be with you. We're talking about the weather in some parts of Canada. They're dealing with terrible flooding. Most of Ontario, Quebec, soon to be Atlantic Canada. A heat wave. Is this just normal weather, or is this the extreme weather that's caused by climate change that we've heard so much about, been warned about for years? What would you say? We have about 4 or 5 lines available, so there's lots of time to take your call, and the wait won't be long at all. 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Strathmore. Bill is in Strathmore. Hello, Bill.
Good day, Rob. How are you doing?
Yeah, very good, Bill. Thank you. What's your opinion, Bill?
Well, in all honesty, our world is changing, but mankind is not changing it. We turn in the atmosphere. Our Earth turns, and it goes east, west, north, and south. And right now, we've turned to where Vancouver is not getting the rainforest that they have. That's called the rainforest out there. All that rain now has shifted inland, and we're getting it here in Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and through to the east coast because of the tidal winds blow it that way. And then out of the south, it comes from the south up along the coast, and that's why they're getting tornadoes and whatnot on land down there, because the earth has shifted that much.
Okay, but Bill, what I'm trying to get at is, do you think this is just a kind of natural thing, or do you think human activity is causing this or contributing to it? These changes that you're talking about.
Well, mankind may be contributing 5%. The volcanoes exploding around the world is contributing 85 to 95% of what goes on in our atmosphere. Why other parts of the country are getting cold and we're heating up and we're getting rain. It's just a natural occurrence on how the shift of the world does on its own. And we move further out into the atmosphere, we get colder. We move the other way, we get warmer. Then it will shift back and forth. That's how the ice ages were formed many, many millions of, like 12,000, 15,000 years ago.
All right, but you think whatever human contribution there may be to this, it's relatively minor, and that more natural forces are at play.
It is. Well, I could say one thing, all the solar panels that are going up around the world, especially in North America and South America, they're contributing probably 30% of the heat going back up into the atmosphere, because they do let off heat. It doesn't contain it. It goes up and sits in our atmosphere, and when you get a cold breeze coming down from the north, hot and cold creates rain. So you get an abundance of rain out of that, too.
Okay. All right, Bill, thank you. Interesting ideas there. Let's go to east of Calgary. Now, Gord is there. Hello, Gord.
Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good, Gord. It's good to hear from you today. What would you say, Gord?
Climate has been changing ever since the Earth was made. Years ago, it used to be dinosaurs roaming around in here. And then Ice Age. And then humans started to mess the place up. But when they're talking about flooding in Calgary, and there are all the big cities, the reason there's so much more flooding now is asphalt does not absorb rain. Down the streets, if you don't want to get wet, don't build by a river.
I suppose. Again, I come back to this. I would say this would be the official position of the Canadian government. Okay, quote. I'm just going to quote here. Climate change is accelerating far beyond natural rates due to human influence. Climate change is intensifying both the frequency and severity of certain kinds of extreme weather events. For example, it says extreme heat events are becoming much more likely, or extreme rainfall events are becoming more likely. As the atmosphere warms, more moisture becomes available to feed storms, increasing the potential for heavy rainfall and excessive flooding. What do you think of that?
Excessive flooding is because there's no dirt left to take care of it. It's all the doggone asphalt that runs off. And,
okay. Well, this says it's because the atmosphere is warming, and that's because of human influence.
No, it's all because of the sun.
No, because of the sun.
And, you know, I've been kicking around for 78 years, and I've seen a lot of moisture and stuff like that. And we live what we call a hail belt. We're just east of Calgary, and it's common knowledge that the hail hits northeast Calgary, Conrick, Delacour, and it whistles right through east of Calgary, here where I live. And it's normal.
Just normal. Okay, that's what I'm asking today. If people think it's normal or they think it's abnormal and driven by climate change. You think it's normal? And that's your opinion. And I accept that. 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577 with hour number 2 of Talkback underway. Love to hear from you today on our topic. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Weather, climate change, needless to say, it is in the news again. Smoky skies, flooded basements, people trying to beat the heat. I do wonder what it's going to be like tonight for that World Cup game in Toronto, Portugal and Croatia. I mean, it's going to be 35 degrees in Toronto today. The game doesn't start until 7 o'clock Toronto time, but I was looking here. It's still supposed to be 32 degrees when that game starts, with a Humidex reading of 42. Hydration break, anyone? I think so. Yeah, 35 degrees in Toronto today. But I guess what we're asking, is that normal? Is such, it's Canada in July. It's normal. 34 degrees today in Kitchener. Is that normal? Low 30s tomorrow in Halifax. When more of this hot, muggy air mass that has enveloped Ontario and Quebec moves into Atlantic Canada. It is 30 degree weather. It is the first week of July. Is it just normal, or is it the extreme weather that comes with climate change? That's what we've been kicking around today on Talkback with your help. 4 lines available there, 1-833-668-2577. Let's go to Zach, is in Calgary. Hello, Zach.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
Yeah, very good, Zach. Yeah, thank you. What's your opinion?
Well, it's a little bit nuanced, which I'm glad that we're now at a point in Canadian polite society that we can actually have nuance about this and not just be accused of being a climate denier, using language like that. But
right,
I am, I'm a very conservative person, obviously, but I am a big fan of conserving the environment, and I think we should be good stewards of the earth. Unfortunately, so much of this climate conversation, it gets hijacked in a nefarious way, and it ends up focusing on like the carbon tax, carbon credits nonsense, as opposed to, hey, maybe we should not dump a bunch of plastic and bunker oil into our oceans. But I heard a couple of your callers talking about, somebody mentioned a solar flare and volcanic eruptions. And, well, you know me by now, I'm kind of a history buff. And I actually read a book a while back about that. And there was some fascinating periods of recorded history where we had very similar kind of erratic weather events because of, what was the year without a summer, 1816, I believe it was. There was a huge volcano in Indonesia that erupted and injected sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, and it caused like famine in Europe and North America. And a lot of people, like I said, I know it's a lot easier to just kind of assume that we're capable of completely controlling nature based on, what type of SUV we drive. But your one caller made a good point, right? Like the sun burps, and then all of a sudden it's like another 10-degree temperature swing.
Okay. Again, I'm just going to come back to these quotes that I've been reading. For example, this one. The long-established consensus among the world's scientists is that climate change is real, mostly caused by humans. In other words, not volcanoes, but mostly caused by humans and getting worse. And its main cause is greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas, trapping heat into the atmosphere.
And you sincerely believe that like the climate is mostly, that's what they're saying, mostly affected by humans.
Mostly caused by humans.
Is that real? Like, I can't believe that somebody would actually believe that.
I'm reading that this is the long established consensus among the world's scientists.
It's I wonder all the heat wave records. What were they at again? They were like the 40s and 30s. And here's another. Actually, I have another good example too. There was where is it here? I wrote it down. There was the year without a summer, 1816. In the year 535, there is documented historians that said the sun gave forth light without brightness. And it was possibly attributed to a massive volcano eruption, possibly in El Salvador or Iceland, which initiated one of the coldest decades in the last 2 millennia. So do we have an impact on the environment? Like I said, I absolutely do believe that. And I think we should be good stewards. Like, we shouldn't be dumping plastic into the ocean. Yes. We shouldn't be overly polluting. I do believe strongly in that. I would consider myself more of a conservationist. I guess that'd be the category I'd be put under, because, like I said, unless you totally subscribe to the idea of human-caused, 100% human-caused global warming, and if you don't believe in that, you're a denier, which is loaded language, trying to pin you as like almost like a Holocaust denier.
I haven't said that today. And I haven't accused you of that. But what I'm saying is that the scientists who study this for a living have said that last year was the 3rd hottest year on record, and the other two were 2024 and 2023. Hottest year on record.
How long have we been keeping records for in Canada?
Maybe 100 years, a little more than 100 years, right?
Okay. So, and there hasn't been any records before then, or just, I guess, historical records, but haven't been tracking it, is what you're saying, with like satellite
scientific records models. I guess scientific records. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. You think it's you? Okay. Let's get back to this. Okay. Do you think when it hits, say, 35 degrees in Toronto today, that's normal?
Well, I can only speak for Calgary, but ever since I've been a kid, there's the 2013 flood was the worst one. But I remember we had a bad flood in the 90s. I believe I lived in Lethbridge at the time, and it was a severe flood. We also, it is not uncommon in Calgary to get like 30, 35 degree weather all throughout the day, and then a massive hailstorm in the evening. Like that is so common. Anyone who calls from Calgary can say that is absolutely common. The hail has actually improved a bit because I believe they cloud seed now to make the hail pellets smaller. But
I see.
Yeah,
interesting.
Northeast Calgary is it looks like a war zone after a hailstorm.
So you're saying you have to go back further than the official records. That would be, I think, what I would take away from our conversation, Zach, and I have to run. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. I think every line is available there right now. Love to hear from you today. It's Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Smoky skies, flooding, heat waves. Just normal, natural, not unusual at all, or extreme weather caused by climate change. 1-833-668-2577. Staying in Calgary, Derek is there. Hello, Derek. Thanks for calling, Derek.
You, Rob?
Yeah, hi, Derek.
How you doing?
Very good, Derek. Yeah, good to hear from you. What's your opinion, please?
Yeah. Love your show. Well, I just refuse to believe that the demise of mankind is going to be plant food. We're all going to die from plant food. The dinosaurs lived in a much hotter climate, and they had 15-foot leaves on their trees. Are we seriously considering that plant food is going to be the death of humanity? Really? Are you kidding me?
Okay. What about what? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I just find it remarkable that we have people in science and everything saying that CO2 is going to be the demise of humanity. Really? I mean, that's just incredible to me. Like, have we all lost our minds? Have we forgot what we've learned? Really? Yeah,
No, I don't think it's. I don't think it's just. Is it not? It's greenhouse gas emissions. CO2 is just one, right?
Right.
CO2 is just one greenhouse gas.
That's correct. But that's the one they're talking about. That's the one they're taxing us on. And the taxes have, what have they done? They haven't changed any of my consumer habits. They're just taxing me to take my money. Their taxes aren't doing anything.
Well, I do wonder about the efficacy of the policy, carbon tax policy or carbon markets or any of that. I'm not really sure what effect any of this is having, because it's in the news year after year, hottest year on record, hottest year ever, third hottest year ever, whatever. As I say, look in Manitoba today, terrible flooding. I mean, it's 32 degrees where I am here today with a humidex of 44. I'm in Quebec, where I'm paying a provincial carbon tax. And before that, I was paying a federal carbon tax and a provincial carbon tax, and it hasn't done much. I appreciate that for you.
It's a scam. It's a scam, Rob.
It's
They're
a scam.
Scamming
It's a
everybody
scam.
out of their money. Well,
To what end, then?
Well, why is it that we have to tax people for things they cannot change?
Right.
We have to go to work. We have to take our kids to events. We have to do those things.
Appreciate that.
Transit, is it going to help? It's not going to help. I can't take transit.
But
to get my
I've
kids
heard this before. It's a scam. It's a hoax. It's whatever.
Absolutely.
Then if it is that, then why are they scamming us, or why are they perpetrating what would be a massive hoax?
Well, okay, they're taxing you. Has the weather changed? Oh, the weather got worse. So it's the hottest in history, and they've been taxing us for years now. And the weather's worse. Weird, hey? And when it's the coldest it's ever been, they don't talk about that, do they?
No. Climate change, extreme weather. It's big news in July. Not so in February. I'll grant you that. When it's minus 25 with a wind chill of minus 35. All right, Derek, thank you. 1-833-668-2577, and have your say on Talkback right after the latest breaking news here on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Just to give you another example, weather/climate stories that have been in the news in recent days. I noticed Bloomberg News is running a story today. The future of sport on an overheating planet. An overheating planet. The planet is overheating. And the article goes on to talk about how extreme heat, rising temperatures, and what it calls climate instability are disrupting global sporting events. It talks about how heat waves, like the heat in Toronto right now, are forcing organizers to make changes to schedules, how endurance sports like marathons are seeing a record number of heat-related illnesses, and it warns that winter sports, the winter games, at risk because of climate change. And it actually points the finger, in part, at these mega sporting events like the World Cup, because they're huge emitters of greenhouse gases, from the international travel that's involved to the carbon footprint of a stadium that seats 75,000 people, or even making the merchandise that goes along with all of these events. Very carbon intensive industry, you see. And it says these games are at risk because of all the environmental problems that they themselves contribute to. And it's not normal. It's not the way it used to be. The article says. Then here's another one. How extreme heat is changing summer camp. And it goes on in a very nostalgic way about how summer camp used to be filled with, fun activities, outdoor activities. Everything used to be carefree, going swimming, going canoeing, sitting around a campfire, telling stories. But now, because of climate change and the extreme weather caused by climate change, you have summer camps rethinking how they schedule the day for campers. Some camps have temperature limits, so if it hits 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it was an American story, outdoor activities have to be canceled. No more going for hikes or horseback riding or playing softball or whatever. And it says some of the better funded camps, they have to install, they're installing HVAC systems and misting stations, all to keep the little ones comfortable and cool and safe. And it says a lot of nonprofit camps can't afford those kinds of upgrades. So the summer camp experience is at risk for lots of children. And it's not normal, and it's not the way it used to be. It's not normal, and it's not the way it used to be. The theme that runs through both of those stories. Let's go to Tyler in Calgary today. Hello, Tyler.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very good, Tyler. Thank you. How are you?
I'm well.
Good to hear
I just wanted to call in and talk about my view on pollution and overpollution and climate change.
By all means.
Yeah. So I'm a 16-year-old in Calgary, and I've been hearing all the conservatives calling into your show, and it's just been blowing me away the way they're trying to validate their views that we are not the cause. Like, our climate, it's been getting hotter. It's well known. It's a fact. Have there been more eruptions recently? Like, I know a common excuse for climate change has been volcanic eruptions. Have there been more volcanic eruptions lately? Is that why our climate's getting hotter? I honestly do not think so. I can't say I'm an expert in volcanic eruptions.
Neither can I.
And then acid rain in Europe and a lot of other places. Your acid rain is caused by rain mixing with air pollution, normally sulfur dioxide. So we're getting a lot more acid rain, and that must mean there's more pollutants in the air. No?
Okay. Right. But so you would say then that this is not normal. This kind of weather that we're seeing is not normal, and it's caused by climate change. It's caused by climate change, which is caused by humans, in your opinion.
100%.
100%. Okay.
So, sure, there might be a few volcanic eruptions that are adding CO2 to our atmosphere, but that's been happening for as long as our planet's been around. So the planet knows how to regulate that amount of CO2. It does not know how to handle all the CO2 from us driving, our factories, our pollution from our plastics, everything. The planet doesn't know how to handle that much pollution.
All right. Thank you for your call, Tyler. Yep, it's a good view to have. Thank you. Let's go to John in Calgary as well. Hi, John.
Big fan here.
Well, thank you, John,
Hey, Rob,
for
big fan
calling.
here.
What?
Good.
Yeah,
Listen, I
good to
got
hear
a
from
couple
you.
of questions, actually, as opposed to answers. The one thing that really gets me is the pushers of the climate change narrative. They always seem to show up to these climate change summits, but they always take their private jets and their big, huge yachts. If these guys were really serious about climate change, would they not be looking at themselves first? Like, why is me using a plastic straw causing rain in Saskatchewan when them flying around in a private jet is all good?
Yeah,
don't get it.
Well, not leading by example, right? But can you do it
That's
over
only
Zoom?
one thing, but I mean, Canada and the U.S., we're the ones that are sitting here supposedly taking the climate change on our backs, and we got to change, and we got to change the way we live. Yet no one, not a single person, will go to China or go to India or sanction China about them. They're the ones creating 60% of this or more. We're causing what, 1%? So even if it was the narrative,
Canada's global contributions are about 1.5% of global carbon emissions come from Canada.
Right. So shouldn't we be on China's back and India's back? They don't care.
Yeah, I understand and I appreciate that point of view. I think if you talk to Mr. Carney, they would say, well, you look at China, maybe not so much India, but if you look at China, they're making massive investments into things like renewable energy, solar panels, wind power, that kind of thing.
Well, they put all the coal-fired plants and all stuff like that. Come on.
Well, of course, and there's lots of talk about an announcement about a pipeline today from Alberta to British Columbia. Where is it hoped that a lot of that oil is going to go? Right? China? Right? China? Okay, thank you. Going to stop here, John. Thank you. 1-833-668-2577. Be right back with more of your calls. Lots of opinions today. Not everyone agrees on this one. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
To parts of Canada dealing with smoke in the air from wildfires, flooded basements, heat waves. Heat wave basically across half the country. Just normal weather or extreme weather caused by climate change. That's what we've been kicking around today. Let's go to Tim is in Calgary today as well. Hello, Tim.
Hey, how are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. Tim, how are you?
Good. I'm going to keep it short and sweet, but let's go back to COVID when everything was shut down. Manufacturing, planes, trains, automobiles.
Sure.
We had less pollution. Smog in California was down. I think India saw the sun for the first time in the last 50 years. I think we as humans are very arrogant to not think that as the population increases, pollution will increase also. And yes, we do affect the climate change. I don't know. I'm not a well-educated person, but I think common sense has to kick in. And scientists, unfortunately, you can have 10 of them in a room, and you're going to have 7 different opinions on the same topic. So, like I say, I think we're a very arrogant race, and common sense has gone away. I'm 70 years old. I remember as a child, summer was summer. Did you have rain? Yep, you had rain every now and again. But for the 4 or 5 months that summer was here, it was beautiful. Now, and I can remember probably in the last 20 years, summer is pretty much non-existent. Look at the last 3 or 4 months we've had in Alberta. It's basically rained for the last 3 months. You can't tell me that that's just a normal function of the world doing what the world does. And I guess that's my opinion, Rob. I listen to you, but I don't like to make phone calls. So there you go.
Well, there you go. Thank you. Okay, thank you, Tim. I appreciate your honesty. It's an opinion show, so there's bound to be disagreements. Thank you. Garth, up next. Hi, Garth.
How you doing, Rob? I know you're doing good because I've been listening to everybody ask you, so we'll just get through that. I'm doing good also. So, so human nature is for us to say that we're the ones that caused this. You know, and next point, you know, I just disagree with that. It's like, it's mostly a natural thing. I think human beings accelerate it possibly by 10%, but the rest of it, I think it's a natural phase that the planet's going through. So, you know, and, you know, younger people, you know, they've had climate change fed to them their whole lives, you know, like kids that are raised with cell phones from the beginning, as opposed to people that are in their 60s and 70s like myself. And they're going to see the whole situation different than what we see. Like there's been flooding and there's been disasters and rain and hurricanes for thousands of years. You know, possibly it's a little bit worse now, I guess. Like I say, it could be 10%. But, you know, so 1.5% of the pollution comes from Canada. You know, there's no carbon tax in China. There's no carbon tax in India. You know, it's the government. It's a cash grab. They just figure out a way to make money on an attitude or a narrative that people are starting to believe, and then they just find a way to make money off of. That's what the government does. You know, and we have to weigh whether, you know, if it's reversible or not. And, to attempt to do so, is going to have such a negative impact on the economy. Like there's no way around it. There's no way around it. And the smoke. Hey, people are talking about.
I mean, if it is, this is what I was wondering. Just as you mentioned that, if it is the fight against climate change, the fight of our lives against the greatest risk humanity has ever faced, how will we know when we've won the fight against climate change? When there are no floods, when there are no heat waves, when there are no wildfires anymore.
That's never going to happen, right? It's crazy to think that it will. It's not something we can win. You can possibly manage it. You can learn how to live through it. The planet's evolving. The salmon are disappearing on the West Coast. Well, maybe that's because the salmon were there to help humans evolve 1,000 years ago before we had tractors to plow fields. It's evolution. It's just, the smoke. So that's strictly from
I'm not sure.
Forest mismanagement.
Gotcha. Got to run. Yeah, got to run. Thank you. Yeah, I've got to go. Thank you. But I won't be gone for long. Be right back with more of your calls and a few more thoughts as we make our way through Talkback today. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Let's get to Chris in Cochrane on Talkback today on the weather, on climate change. Hello, Chris. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Rob. I know you're good and I'm good, so I'll get right to the point and save some time.
Okay.
I don't have any answers, but I have a question. And the question is, how do we produce our way out of global warming? Because they want us to buy EVs, they want us to invest in solar panels, they want us to invest in, as nations and provinces, in wind farms, all of which produce CO2 to make, and at the same time we have, as the previous caller mentioned, a growing population in the world, all of whom are consumers that buy more TVs, more cell phones, more cars, more everything. Mm-hmm. What is it going to take to reverse climate change, assuming the previous caller, it is reversible? What does it take? Are we supposed to give up vacationing, camping, driving everywhere, give up cars? Certainly we have to change our consumer mindset dramatically. And so it's not even a question if it's technically reversible. Is it, socially reversible? Because what are humans prepared to give up in order to, stop climate change in its tracks? And I'll be honest with you, I don't think we have it in us. I mean, that's
neither do I.
Carry pessimistic viewpoint, but I honestly don't think people are prepared to change the way they live in order to fight climate change, which sort of makes talking about it so much almost moot, because I just don't think we have what it takes.
But it is interesting that you would raise that, because the public opinion research has borne this out over the years. You ask, for example, a polling firm would do a poll on climate change. Are you concerned about climate change? Is it a top concern for you? Are you moderately concerned, not concerned at all? Usually in the summer with the heat waves and wildfires and everything, climate change, it climbs up the list of issues that people are concerned about. Then the winter months hit and the support for, being all in on the fight against climate change, it drops a little bit. But most people will say, yes, climate change is a concern and we should fight it. Then polling firms will ask, well, what are you willing to do? For example, would you pay twice as much for gas as you would now? Absolutely not, is the response that you get. Say where you are in Calgary today or in Cochrane, you might be paying what, $1.50, $1.60 for gas? What if you were paying $3 a liter? What if you were paying $3 a liter for gas? But it was in the name of fighting climate change. You know what the answer would be? Absolutely not. No, exactly. I do not. No, I do not want to do that. Yeah,
and that's the issue.
They did a poll in Quebec. Would you be willing to pay an extra 10 cents a liter to fight climate change? And the answer was no.
Yeah, and Quebecers wouldn't be willing to let a pipeline run through their province to the East Coast, to fight climate change if it meant being energy self-sufficient. But just take, truck drivers, which we have lots of in Alberta, they complain about the price of gas, and the fuel economy the vehicles get, and then they go out and buy another big pickup truck or SUV. It's just people are not willing to change the way they live. It's enough to make it
such a good point.
In my opinion. But anyway, that's all.
Such a good point. You've said it very well, sir. Yeah, I'm nodding my head in agreement. Thank you all for your calls today. Very interesting discussion. Lots of interesting ideas out there when it comes to the whole climate change debate and extreme weather events. We will be back tomorrow. We'll do the Friday free-for-all Talkback hour, so you can start the conversation if you want. Just pick a topic, and we'll do our best to follow along. We love the Friday free-for-all Talkback. Until then, the latest breaking news is coming up next. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know, and it's News Radio.